unleashed a desperate and ingenious weapon from the skies. It was November 3, 1944, on the eastern shores of Honshu, where technicians from the Japanese 9th Army Technical Research Laboratory prepared the first Fu-Go balloon for launch. These hydrogen-filled orbs, codenamed Fu-Go, were no ordinary weather instruments but silent carriers of death, designed to ride the newly discovered jet stream across the vast Pacific Ocean. Targeting the American mainland, they aimed to ignite widespread panic and destruction without a single soldier setting foot on enemy soil. Little did the world know this covert campaign would span 5 months, involve thousands of schoolchildren in production, and culminate in a tragic explosion that claimed innocent lives. As the war raged on multiple fronts, this forgotten chapter unfolded high above the waves, where wind currents became weapons of war. The story begins in the aftermath of a daring raid that humiliated Japan and sparked a vengeful innovation. The roots of the Fu-Go program trace back to April 18, 1942, when Lieutenant Colonel Jimmy Doolittle led 16 B-25 Mitchell bombers in a surprise attack on Tokyo and other Japanese cities. This audacious Doolittle raid, launched from the USS Hornet, inflicted minimal physical damage but shattered the illusion of Japanese invulnerability. Emperor Hirohito and the Imperial General Headquarters demanded retaliation against the American homeland, something beyond the reach of conventional aircraft or submarines. Enter Major General Sueki Kasaba of the 9th Army Technical Research Laboratory, tasked with developing a long-range weapon that could strike from afar. By 1943, Japanese meteorologists had identified powerful high-altitude winds, the jet stream, capable of carrying payloads over 5,000 miles in just 3 to 5 days. The Fu-Go design emerged, a 33-foot diameter balloon envelope made from mulberry paper, meticulously laminated in 5 layers and sealed with konnyaku paste derived from potatoes. Each balloon carried a payload of up to 33 pounds, including 4 incendiary bombs and 1 33-pound anti-personnel high-explosive bomb. Altitude control was ingenious, a series of 32 sand-filled ballast bags, each weighing about 7 pounds, released via altimeters and fuses to maintain 30,000 feet. If the balloon dipped below 25,000 feet, a bag would drop. If all failed, the bombs would arm. Production ramped up in secret factories across Japan, where over 10,000 schoolgirls, aged 12 to 18, were conscripted under the guise of patriotic duty. In dim, drafty warehouses, they cut and glued paper panels, their small hands enduring the bitter cold of winter as they assembled envelopes that spanned the length of a basketball court. "We worked from dawn till dusk," one survivor later recalled, "our fingers raw from the paste, knowing only that we were helping the emperor. The strategic intent was clear: ignite massive forest fires in the Pacific Northwest timberlands during dry summer months, diverting American resources from the war effort and sowing terror among civilians." With launch sites established at Ichinomiya in Chiba Prefecture, Nakoso in Fukushima, and Otsu in Ibaraki, the stage was set for Operation Fu-Go. By late 1944, as Allied bombers pounded Japanese cities, these sites buzzed with activity, hydrogen plants inflating balloons under the cover of night. The first wave lifted off, vanishing into the eastern horizon, bound for an unsuspecting America. This was no mere experiment. It was a calculated strike at the heart of the enemy, born from desperation and ingenuity. As the initial Fu-Go balloons ascended from Ichinomiya on November 3, 1944, propelled by winds exceeding 200 miles per hour, the Japanese High Command monitored weather reports with bated breath. Each balloon, designated Type A, carried a radio transmitter for the first few launches, allowing trackers to confirm their trans-Pacific journey. By November 4th, the first sightings emerged. American P-3-8 Lightning fighters from the 11th Fighter Group spotted anomalous objects over the Aleutian Islands, but they floated too high for interception. The balloons pressed on, crossing the international date line and entering U.S. airspace. On November 4th, a balloon was recovered intact near San Pedro, California, its payload disarmed. Military intelligence, including the U.S. Army's Western Defense Command under Lieutenant General John L. DeWitt, scrambled to assess the threat. "These are not isolated incidents," warned a classified memo from the Office of Censorship. By December, reports flooded in. A balloon downed by anti-aircraft fire from the 55th Coast Artillery Regiment near Kalispell, Montana, on December 11th. Another exploding harmlessly over Thermopolis, Wyoming on December 6th, scattering shrapnel across snow-covered fields. The tension mounted as winter weather aided the balloon's stealth. In the bitter cold of January 1945, with temperatures plummeting to -20 degrees Fahrenheit in some areas, forest rangers in Washington's Olympic National Forest spotted smoldering fires ignited by incendiary devices. The acrid smoke hung heavy in the air, one ranger reported, as if the forest itself was under siege. By mid-February, over 100 balloons had been confirmed, reaching as far east as Michigan and south to Mexico. The 4th Air Force, tasked with air defense, deployed P-51 Mustang squadrons from bases like McCord Field, but the balloons' erratic paths defied prediction. Civilian encounters added to the growing unease. In Estacada, Oregon, on January 31st, loggers from the 104th Infantry Division's timber unit stumbled upon a deflated envelope, its bombs still attached. "We froze in place," one veteran later said, the fuse wires dangling like venomous snakes. The U.S. government imposed strict censorship, through the Office of Censorship, directing newspapers to bury stories deep or omit them entirely, denying Japan any feedback on effectiveness. Yet whispers spread. Farmers in Idaho reported strange explosions at night, the ground trembling under the force of 15-kilogram bombs. As launches peaked in March 1945, with up to 200 balloons released daily from Nakoso, the threat intensified. One balloon drifted perilously close to the Hanford site in Washington on March 10th, its trailing wires short-circuiting power lines and causing a brief blackout at the plutonium production facility critical to the Manhattan Project. Guards from the 1st Provisional Military Police Company rushed to the scene, the air thick with the hum of generators restarting. For those tense minutes, an engineer recalled, the entire atomic program hung by a thread. Little did they know, the worst was yet to come, as the balloon's silent invasion tested America's resolve against an invisible enemy. By early May, with over 285 incidents logged across 38 states, the campaign's human toll was about to emerge in a remote Oregon town. Had organized a picnic for his Sunday school class, a brief respite from the war's distant echoes. His pregnant wife, Elsie Mitchell, 26, joined him, along with 5 children. His sister Joan, 13, Jay Gifford, 13, Edward Engen, 13, and Sherman Shoemaker, 11. They piled into the pastor's car, driving 7 miles east along a dirt road toward Leonard Creek, the scent of ponderosa pine filling the air. Around 1100 hours, as the group unpacked sandwiches by a babbling stream, the children spotted something unusual tangled in the underbrush. Just 200 yards away, a massive white canopy draped over branches, metallic gadgets glinting in the sunlight. "It looks like a big parachute," Joan exclaimed, curiosity drawing them closer. Elsie followed, calling out warnings, while Archie parked the car. Unbeknownst to them, this was Fu-Go balloon number unknown, one of the 9,300 launched, its journey ending here after 5,000 miles. As the children gathered around, Sherman poked at the device with a stick. In an instant, the 33-pound anti-personnel bomb detonated with a deafening roar, the blast wave ripping through the forest. Shrapnel tore into flesh, the air filled with screams and the metallic tang of explosives. Elsie and the 5 children lay mortally wounded, their bodies mangled amid scorched earth. Archie, shielded by distance, rushed forward in horror, but it was too late. The ground was stained red, a responding sheriff later described, the silence after the explosion more terrifying than the blast itself. Fear gripped the community as word spread. This was no accident. These were the only combat casualties on the U.S. mainland during World War II. The FBI and Army investigators from the 9th Service Command arrived by 1400 hours, cordoning off the site with troops from the 41st Infantry Division. Autopsies confirmed fragmentation wounds from a Japanese Type 92 bomb. Panic simmered nationwide. If balloons could kill innocents in rural Oregon, what of cities like Seattle or Los Angeles? The Office of Censorship clamped down harder, but rumors fueled anxiety. Mothers kept children indoors, one Bly resident recalled, scanning the skies for death from above, against impossible odds. With no effective countermeasures, radar blind to paper, fighters outpaced the crisis peaked. The weight of command fell on General DeWitt, who pondered evacuation orders while families mourned in silence. The human cost was palpable. 6 lives extinguished in a flash, a pastor's world shattered, and a nation's vulnerability laid bare. In the aftermath of the Bly tragedy, as grief enveloped the Mitchell family and the tight-knit community, U.S. intelligence turned to science for salvation. Recovered balloons from earlier incidents like the one near Kalispell provided crucial clues. The 32 sand-filled ballast bags, each containing about 7 pounds of fine-grained sand. Geologists from the Military Geology Unit of the U.S. Geological Survey, led by experts like Ray E. Wilcox, received samples in Washington, D.C. by mid-February 1945. Under microscopes at the USGS laboratories, the sand revealed its secrets. We examined diatoms, tiny fossilized algae and foraminifera, single-celled organisms unique to specific ocean floors, Wilcox noted in his report. The samples contained over 100 species of diatoms, including rare types like Casanodiscus and Stephanopexis, traced to Miocene-era deposits. Mineral analysis showed plagioclase feldspar and hornblende, signatures of volcanic beaches. Cross-referencing with pre-war Japanese geological surveys, the team pinpointed the source: beaches near Shiogama and Sendai on Honshu's east coast, within 50 miles of the suspected launch areas. By March 1945, this breakthrough stemmed from a single sand sample unmasked the launch sites: Ichinomiya, Nakoso, and Atsu, where hydrogen production facilities hummed under camouflage. Sheer determination drove us, a geologist reflected. Knowing lives depended on accuracy. Armed with coordinates, the U.S. Army Air Force's 21 Bomber Command, under Major General Curtis LeMay, planned strikes. On April 13, 1945, B-29 superfortresses from the 313th Bombardment Wing took off from Tinian, dropping 500-pound M69 incendiary bombs on the Ichinomiya site. Flames engulfed hydrogen tanks, the explosions echoing for miles. Subsequent raids targeted Nakoso on April 15th and Atsu on April 20th. With over 100 B-29s involved, their Pratt & Whitney engines roaring through the night. Japanese anti-aircraft fire from 75mm Type 88 guns lit the skies, but the bombers pressed on, destroying assembly lines and balloon stockpiles. What happened next would become legendary, as the Fu-Go program faltered, launches halting by late April amid resource shortages and Allied pressure. The geologists' ingenuity turned the tide, transforming a defensive scramble into offensive victory, embodying the triumph of human spirit over adversity. With the launch sites in ruins, Japan's Fu-Go campaign ground to a halt by April 1945, after releasing approximately 9,300 balloons. Only about 300 reached North America, causing minimal damage. Scattered forest fires extinguished by vigilant rangers from the U.S. Forest Service, a few power outages, and isolated explosions. The total cost to Japan exceeded 2 billion yen, equivalent to millions in wartime dollars, yet the strategic impact was negligible, failing to divert significant Allied resources. Casualties remained tragically low but profoundly felt. The 6 victims in Bly, Oregon, marked the only fatalities. Elsie Mitchell and the children were buried in a communal service on May 8, 1945, attended by over 300 mourners, their graves overlooking the forest that claimed them. Pastor Mitchell, devastated, later remarried but carried the loss forever. No medals were awarded to the civilians, but the geologists received commendations from the War Department, including the Legion of Merit for Ray Wilcox. The Hanford incident, a near miss on March 10, underscored the balloon's potential peril, but swift action by engineers prevented catastrophe. Historically, Fu-Go highlighted warfare's evolution terror from afar, prefiguring modern drones. The U.S. censorship campaign succeeded, as Japan abandoned the program without realizing its limited success. Today, remnants like the balloon at the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force serve as reminders of ingenuity's dark side. This episode, though forgotten, illustrates the human cost of war, schoolgirls' labor in Japan, American families' grief, and the quiet heroism of scientists who unraveled the mystery. In the end, against all odds, knowledge proved mightier than the wind. This was just one of countless untold stories from the Second World War.